Hello, welcome back. Now, apparently, Sir Keir Starmer has claimed that returning migrants to their home countries is a better deterrent than the Rwanda scheme, as he boasted of the highest number of deportations in 7 years. Wow. That should make us happy, shouldn't it? Well, the Home Office published ad hoc statistics showing that 16,400 failed asylum seekers, illegal migrants and foreign criminals had been returned to their home countries in the first 6 months of the Labour government. The department said it was the highest number of returns in a 6-month period since 2017, when 17,378 were returned. Let's speak now to Harjap Singh Bhangal, who's a UK immigration lawyer. Harjap, are these statistics, wow, this is brilliant, or is this sort of a small uptick on where we were bumping along anyway?
Well, no, it's something that Labour have got form for. So during the last Labour government, they did have high numbers of removals, up to about 60,000 a year. That waned under the Conservative government, almost to some years 4,000 to 6,000. I think he's got the removals under control. That's despite, people saying, oh, but the ECHR and the human rights. Well, human rights is still in place now, and he's managing to send 16,000 people back in 6 months. The real question is why in the last 14 years the Conservatives hadn't managed to do that. And the real sort of sticking point, his main problem is to stop people coming in. That problem is still there on the small boats.
Right. Well, in defence of the Conservative Party,
you're still going to get political sort of unrest, really.
Under the Conservative Party, they topped that figure. It might have been in 2017, but they did in that particular year return more people in a 6-month period. My big question is how many have been granted the right to remain? I know that one thing that Sir Keir Starmer said is this is all about speeding up processing. We're getting one half of the story here, aren't we? We're getting one half of the story, which is 16,400 have been sent home. I don't know how long a lot of those people have been lingering in the UK waiting for a decision. But I want to see the other side of this equation. How many people have just been signed off with the right to stay?
Well, that will depend on how many are coming in from war-torn countries and countries we haven't got return agreements with, because after Brexit, they forgot to sign any return agreements in that oven-ready deal, which is a big sort of a mistake that was made. Therefore, there'll be more return agreements being signed this year, and removals will be sped up. Of the people that you cannot return, you won't be able to return regardless, and those numbers will roughly stay the same as last year or the year before. However, what the issue was a surplus of people who should have been sent back but weren't being sent back. Now that's a problem. If you've got 30,000 people coming in a year and you're sending 30 back, that's not as bad as 30 coming in and only sending 4 or 5 back. So the removals, I would say, are under control, but it's the small boats that they really need to stop. That is going to be a problem. If those numbers increase next year, then we'll see some pressure on Keir Starmer, especially with this whole smash the gangs thing. And it's true, if not fighting anyone's corner, but the fact is that there are more gangs that have been caught. Recently, I read last week about another gang that have been caught, but the sentences are just not long enough. I mean, 5 years, 6 years, these people are out in 2, 3 years. It's not a big as deterrent. The deterrent has to come in the form of people thinking of, well, you know what, if we try and play the system, we'll be sent back. That's the first deterrent straight away, which is now sort of kicking in. The Rwanda really wasn't a deterrent at all. It was more of a gimmick. And the deterrent must be, well, you know what, it's going to be hard. We're not going to be able to get in. And the gangs must feel, look, if we get caught, then we're going to spend the rest of our life inside. That's got when that accumulates or that all gets together, then we'll have a deterrent. But the small boats is a problem. Removals are up much better than the last government, and foreign offenders, the removal of foreign offenders, people who have committed crimes, up by about 20-odd%, which beggars belief once again, because Keir Starmer is a barrister, but in fact was Suella Braverman. They both know the law. They both know the legal system. They both should know the ins and outs of it. It just sort of, I'm befuddled as to why the Conservative government just didn't get a grip on this or didn't even bother. Was there no political will? Because the mechanism was definitely there. We got the same mechanism. This man has done it in 6 months.
Well, no, like I said, in 2017, the Conservatives actually got a higher number, so I don't necessarily think there is that much different. We are given just sort of a few bits of evidence here. Like I said, we don't know how many people have been given right to remain.
If you look consistently on the figure, Alex, and on the graph, of the Home Office's own figures, from 2010, it's a downward spiral. It's a downward spiral, and that only picks up this year. And the other thing is work visas that was announced yesterday. They've gone down 45%. So the grip on the work visas and the student dependents, that's still there. Labour haven't reversed them Tory policies of earlier this year, and they've kicked in. And there's a lot less people coming in this year on visas than there were, say, under Rishi Sunak, which we saw record numbers of over 700,000 coming in a year.
Yeah, don't you worry about that, Harjap. I'm not about to forgive the Conservative Party their ludicrous handling of immigration policy anytime soon, if ever. Let's talk about the gangs. I remember doing an interview once in a previous life of mine, and we were talking about what constitutes these gangs. Who are they? How international they are? How complex they are? And you're saying there the sentences aren't long enough. Now people trafficking is a far bigger money earner than drugs trafficking.
It is.
Right.
Yeah, it's always made more money. So there's more money in people trafficking than there is in drug smuggling. Escobar, Narcos, the lot. John Gotti, they've got nothing on these guys.
Yeah.
They are nothing compared to the people smuggling gangs who have got everyone on the payroll. From border security guards to police force to people in the armed forces. There is no way that me and you can get from Russia all the way to France without having our passport checked once, at least once, right, at a border. There is no way. Try it, I'll try it, you'll try it. We'd be stopped within, hours trying to cross a border. However, how are people getting these gangs and hundreds of people from Russia, from Italy, all the way to France without being checked? We all know what's going on here. These gangs are huge. However, we have to smash the model. Now, the model is that there's always a demand. The demand is there. So you've got to stop the demand and you've got to stop the supply chain. So the supply is boats being put on the coast and these gangs actually advertising on social media. We've seen it. You've seen it. They're on TikTok advertising that they can, this is a service. We're going to take you over. It's going to cost that much.
Yeah.
And it's all organised. No one decides to get up in France one day and say, right, I'm going to find a boat on the coast and just decide to come over. It's all organised and it's all highly, sophisticated. Now, this has got to be done with European cooperation. And that is there now. A lot of countries in Europe have woken up to this and realised, you know what, we've all got to get together. We've got to deal with this together. Sort of spearheaded by Italy. So Italy, the Italian government are pretty much spearheading this and saying, look, we're going to do something about it. We need the French, the Spanish, the Greeks, and everyone to come in and deal with this. And it is sort of happening. So they're trying to disrupt the gangs. Whether they'll be 100% to grab these guys and to grab the top heads of the gangs, I doubt it. But they've got to make sure that once they grab these guys aren't back out in 2 or 3 years, because that's not a deterrent.
But is it not also the case? I've often thought the easiest solution to all of this would be what Italy wanted to do, in part is starting to do, and what Greece has done, which is intercepting the boats and making sure they can't make land. Surely the best thing that would make people smugglers go, well, that's not going to work, is it? Because no one's going to want to get in a boat, is if they know they get in a boat halfway across the channel, it's picked up, taken back to France and told, no, you can't come into UK territorial waters. Sorry, I don't understand why the most obvious of approaches has not been taken.
Well, there's risk in that. So once we start turning boats back, there's risks. If there's a loss of human life, then...
Yeah, but if we're picking them up and taking them one way across the channel, halfway, what's the difference between taking them the other way?
Yeah,
is it more dangerous, picking people up and taking them back to France than it is continuing the journey to the UK?
There have been incidents where people have lost their life, and no government wants that on their hands. No government wants that. So the best thing is to cut it off at source. They know where these boats are manufactured, and they found factories in Germany, in fact, where they were being stored, and warehouses where they were being stored recently last year. So they've grabbed them. The boats have manufacturing details on them of where they can be traced. So they can find Bin Laden holed up in Pakistan in a house via satellites. And are you telling me for 20 years they don't know where the people smugglers are and how they are? It seems incredulous and unbelievable.
So let's talk about that. Where are these boats being manufactured and the sort of big motors that are put on board? Because my understanding is some of these vessels are being made very deliberately for this purpose in China.
That's right. A lot of them are being made in China. And someone's out there at the moment from the government. So perhaps they can have a word while they're out there part of the deal and say, you know what, we're going to do some deals with you, but you've got to get hold on this problem. Your Chinese intelligence has to tell us where these boats are being made, and you have to go and nab these guys. That's all part of trade deals. This all happens. We often hear trade deals are being made in return for visas. Rishi Sunak used to do that with India. He used to say, right, you do a trade deal with us, we'll give you X amount of visas. Priti Patel used to do that. So why can't we do a sort of deal where we say, look to China, we're happy to trade with you, but we have a problem with boats being made that are being used to send illegal immigrants over. We need you to nab these boats, and we need you to sort of destroy them and put these people behind bars. I'm sure if we dangled that sort of bone there in front of them, that China would probably cooperate and say, you know what, yeah, we will cooperate.
I don't think China really need our trade that much compared to, you know, they need to continue to export to us. And I think that probably, I don't know, but I would imagine it's part of sort of shadowy, shady CCP policy that they want us to be flooded with migrants. I think it's probably an act of grey zone warfare.
No, I think every country needs trade. There's no country here that can survive without international trade. But I think that what it is, China would be willing to listen. It all depends now on China's relationship with America, because dynamics change very quickly in world politics. So if China sees, well, hold on, we're about to have some friction with the US, we need to keep the UK on side and France and Italy and Belgium and Spain on side and the EU on side, then it would happen. The EU collectively have to put pressure. And once again, here's cooperation with the EU where it comes in. If the EU go and say to China, you know, this is a problem, you need to sort this out, China will listen. Because China does not know where its dynamic lies with India. There's friction China has with India with that border, where China are incurring on their border of India and have taken over a few villages in India. They're at sort of loggerheads there through the United Nations. America, Donald Trump has just said, look, I'm going to put more sanctions on China and I'm going to give them a hard time. So China does need allies. And a lot of countries need allies. And I think they will listen. It's about someone starting the conversation. And it's about using the intelligence that we're gathering and saying, well, hold on, this is what we need. In return, we'll give you this. It's a way of the world. It always happens. Give and take, quid pro quo.
Well, you're more optimistic than I am, Harjap. It's really good catching up with you. I really like your insights, especially into the sort of scale of this illicit international industry.